success turning people into libertarians by trolling them. If we can bring the message of liberty through what's popular, why wouldn't we be doing that? We're simply free. I want the whole thing abolished. If I have to take all the heat to open the floodgates, then I'll fucking do it.
Rent and property are not that.
Fight the despots. Don't forget to break the cycle. Hello, and welcome to CouchStreams After Hours. Thank you to all the members who are here currently to hang out with me in Austin, where we talk about the juicy and controversial stuff. We were just talking actually while this was starting, and this is actually good. This is good. We were going to talk about the Liberty Republican versus libertarian thing, right? Now, I support the Liberty Republicans. I think there's some great ones. I'm a big fan of Massey. Everyone knows I'm a big fan of Massey. I've been trying to get Massey on the show repeatedly for months, and everyone knows that I even like Rand on some things. I liked Amash on some things. I think he went a little too Orange Man bad at the end there. It got pretty rough, but we do have this tendency as libertarians to just blurt out ideological or political terms that may not apply to everybody all the time. Now, I don't agree with Austin's views on World War II. I could say that, but Austin's not a neocon, right? You're not a neoconservative. You don't push for. I mean, I'm sure that you would see most of these wars, at least in the Middle East, ended.
Of course, but I don't think we should have gone to war in the Middle East in the first place. But even Ron Paul voted for the war in Afghanistan. So the question is do you advocate for wars of intervention to produce because you believe it will produce more stability in the world, because you believe that installing more democratic governments will result in a freer world? Neoconservatism is a fundamental philosophy that advocates for wars of intervention in order to install democratic governments. So that's not what I believe in. That's not what I advocate. But just because I believe that when you're in a war, you ought to fight it and win it and come home, that puts me in the same camp as people like Ron Paul, who said the exact same thing about Afghanistan after he voted for Afghanistan. Right, which means that Ron Paul himself even, maybe he regretted that vote later on, possibly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but he still did.
Sure.
And so it's important to remember that at the time, everybody thought that it was the right thing to do, including Ron Paul. And so, if you're in a war, it's like, when you're in a conflict, when you're in a fight for the life. I don't know if you've ever done martial arts or you've ever done sparring.
Long time. Yeah.
Okay, so when have you ever been in an actual fight?
Yes.
When you're in an actual fight, there's no rules, there's no laws, there's nothing like there's no referee that's gonna sit there and tell them, oh well, you can't do this or you can't do that. Like, you're literally in a fight for survival. You will do absolutely anything to survive, right? And wars should be fought as defensive conflicts to defend your existence, right? Or to defend your people's right to life, liberty, and property, right? We now have wars of intervention, which is a completely separate concept. But when you're in a war, you want to end that war as quickly as possible. And that means that you want to use the biggest, the baddest weapons that are available to end that conflict immediately, especially if you didn't start the war. You don't bear the moral repercussions for such afterwards. I mean, it's like if my belief is that, like, let's say there's a law, I think, in Missouri where if two people go and commit a crime and that crime results in the death of someone, the person who attacked them, who actually committed the murder, is charged with murder, but the person who helped them commit the crime is also charged with murder.
Sure.
Because that person there is also responsible as well, because they both created the scenario that led to that person's death, right? So, individual responsibility and collective responsibility requires one to have a nuanced view of the law, the actual law, and compare that to the natural law and whether something is just. So, the use of nuclear weapons in war is the question of whether or not it's just to harm a third party when acting in your own self-defense. Jacob Hornberger says it's okay to harm a third party. if you're doing so in self-defense, just not if it's microwaving them, right? Which I don't understand. Frankly, I'd rather be microwaved than, I'd rather be nuked than shot, and I'd rather be shot than stabbed. So frankly, I think that nuclear weapons can be, if used correctly and with the most updated technology available today, they can be quite efficient. But,
well,
here's the thing.
I'm not going to argue that.
Would you rather have drones? I know libertarians hate drones, but are drones not an effective advancement in warfare to help personalize it, make it more individual, to make it less of a collateral damage?
Drones are
we complain about the weddings that are getting bombed by Obama, but better to bomb the wedding than to bomb, the entire city, right? Better than carpet bombing, right? So technology and advanced warfare is getting to a scenario where we're getting closer and closer to being able to take out the individual or individuals responsible with modern warfare, right? But they didn't have that in 1945,
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I think, I wonder, and I'm not as versed in this. I had this conversation with Scott Horton.
He sucks.
Oh, dude.
Fuck Scott Horton.
No, you can't do this, bro. You're not.
If you see him, next time you see him, tell him I said to fuck off.
I can't do this. We can't do this.
Yes, you can. You can tell him Austin Petersen says you're a piece of shit.
I can tell Austin. I can tell him that Austin said that, but man. Why are you hurting my heart here, Austin? Why are you trying to hurt me?
Sorry, had to.
Scott is
I know I lost a lot of friends just from saying
Scott
that,
is
but
great,
too bad.
Man. Scott is so good. What's wrong with Scott Horton?
You know how many people Scott has converted to libertarianism?
A lot.
Negative, a lot.
No way. He's converted a lot of people. A lot of people, dude. When it is radio days.
Sure, yeah. People read like those blogs, those walls of text, right? Just like they read your meme with walls of text. Just like they read liberal memes with walls of text.
This book right here, dude.
Yeah.
Life-changing.
You and 10 other people have that paperback.
Oh, it's such a good book, dude. It's such a good
Congratulations, Scott Horton. Fuck you.
Oh, man. I can't. I'm going to cry. You're going to make me cry like legit. I'm going to cry, man. You're breaking my heart,
we had
Austin.
to have a little infighting.
Yeah. It got juicy. And, hey, I was talking about this the other day too when I was saying I kind of filled the vacuum of being the heel in the Libertarian Party, because I have. I mean, there's no denying that. But we're both a little trollish sometimes. Mm-hmm. We kind of don't really care what people think about us. So it makes sense. We can disagree. That's okay. I won't cry. But man, Scott's like one of my favorite people in the whole world. Man, it sucks.
Yeah, I mean, Scott Horton has convinced 0 people to join the Liberty Movement.
I disagree. I disagree.
All the libertarians love him, and we all look at Scott and we're like, God, man, I agree with him. And then we look around at everybody else who's like, wow, I'm a Scott Horton libertarian, and we realize there's nobody there. There's no such thing as a Scott Horton libertarian. There are 0 people that got into libertarianism because of Scott Horton. None. 0.
You don't think so?
0. There are Tom Woods libertarians. There are Dave Smith libertarians. There are Austin Petersen libertarians. I've even seen Josh Smith libertarians.
Oh, there's a lot of those.
Has any person ever said to you, I'm a Scott Horton libertarian?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. There's a lot in the Mises Caucus.
You're fucking lying.
There's a lot.
You're lying because you want to be friends with him.
There's a
You're
lot.
Lying.
No, I've had Scott on the show twice. Scott's already my friend, but I've.
He's on your friend. He's been on the show twice.
I know more.
Okay.
I know more people that know about the war in Yemen because of Scott Horton than I do that know about the war of Yemen at all.
And are those people libertarians?
They are now. Yeah, they're in the Mises Caucus, and a lot of them came because they found out about this.
But they weren't libertarians before. They read Scott Horton and they were like, "Wow, this brilliant Scott Horton guy
leaning. I mean,
really got me into libertarianism."
Maybe
he's like the next Ron Paul.
No, I think Eric Brakey's the next Ron Paul, if I'm being honest with anybody.
Okay. Scott Horton is a piece of shit who hates anybody who disagrees with him for any reason. He's a perfect example of the person who creates a toxic community that makes people hate us and despise us. And that's fine. You know what I mean? Like there's a group of people who like to jerk each other off for how much they hate everything and everyone, including themselves. And that's fine. I don't want to be a part of that. And if they don't want me to be a part of that community, that's fine. I don't want to have anything to do with it, because I think Scott Horton is a perfect example of that kind of toxic libertarian who makes people look at us and go, wow, what a bunch of freaks. Okay,
but what about his knowledge on the Middle East?
Who cares?
That's good, right?
It changes nothing.
I know, but
it changes nothing. It moves the needle. Not one iota.
Sure. I still think he needs to debate Bill Kristol like live. That'd be good. But
it'd be great. And you know how many people will watch that? Everybody who owns that book that you've got on your couch.
oh man, how do you feel about Michael Malice?
Oh, I love Michael Malice. Michael Malice is awesome because despite the fact that he's got an incendiary view, he has a sense of humor. Scott Horton can't take a joke. Michael Malice is in on the joke, right? If you take yourself too seriously, like if you can't laugh at yourself, I promise you that everyone else will, right? But Michael Malice is the person who's in on the joke. Michael Malice is someone who can turn the tables. He has rhetorical punch, right? He's not just an endless recitation of facts. Like God bless Scott Horton for the literary work that he's done, or I won't say literary, but for the research work that he's done to advocate for ideas. I'll give Scott Horton that absolutely, but there's a lot of libertarians who do that, and it hasn't changed anyone's minds. But Michael Malice changes people's minds. Michael Malice can take a joke, and honestly, the most powerful weapon that we have as libertarians is our sense of humor. It is. That's why. Perfect example is Spike Cohen. Spike Cohen is brilliant, but he's not like Scott Horton brilliant. He's a human being, right? He's a living, breathing human being that people can identify with and laugh with and feel and identify with. I'll bet more people have been brought to libertarianism in the last year because of Spike Cohen than in all the years of Scott Horton's scratchings that have been completely irrelevant into paperback books that 10 people own. Fuck Scott Horton.
Oh, I can't hear it again. Okay. All right. I can't do it again. I agree with you about Spike. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Spike, and I actually got, I don't know how many people know this, but myself and Michael Heiss, who founded the Mises Caucus, when it came time for the vice presidential nod, we lobbied the Mises Caucus to vote for Spike because Larry dropped out. If the judge couldn't get the presidential nod, then Larry didn't want the vice presidential nod, and we liked John Mons, but he was kind of quiet and reserved and didn't really have the personality. And it was like, well, look at Spike, man. He's loud. He's kind of, he's young. We know he's going to get that millennial crowd going at the very least, and he's got a pretty good show at the time. And now Spike's still to this day traveling around doing the same things he was during the vice presidential campaign. And he's doing it pretty well,
That's what I like to see, like we didn't see that from Gary Johnson.
Or Bill Weld.
Bill Weld was always AstroTurf, right? He was just there to, they hoped Bill Weld was going to raise them a lot of money, and he did to a certain degree, and that's what they were there for. And a lot of people got rich, and that's what 2016 was about. But
certainly Rod Nilsson got rich.
Yeah, and a few other lists of names I could rattle off. Sure. But I mean, that's the old days, and it's time to move on. Learn our lessons and move on. But the power of positive campaigning, again, like what I was saying at the end of the podcast, it just can't be written off. I see Spike out there, throwing bombs and talking smack, but I always feel like it's lighthearted. It's fun, it starts a conversation, and it doesn't make me leave feeling depressed like when I read anything by Scott Horton. You know what I mean? The last person you want to be like is Scott Horton.
God, you really hate Scott. Did you guys have like a fist fight at some point, or what happened here, man?
Oh, I'm just he's talked enough smack about me that I've never said anything about him publicly ever, so I thought, since you brought him up, this was my one chance, and this was when it was supposed to be juicy. So
yeah, it is.
And
juicy.
And by the way, nobody knows who the fuck Scott Horton is. That's the thing, is that we know who Scott Horton is, but no one knows. People know Ron Paul. I mean, some people might even know Spike Cohen, right? People know Austin Petersen, right? People know, people might know Josh Smith. Tom Woods has a following. No one knows Scott Horton.
Scott did just go on Tim Pool, though. That was kind of cool.
Scott what?
Scott just went on Tim Pool's show.
He did?
Yeah, he was just on it
Tim Pool.
3 weeks ago.
Okay, yeah. You want to make? I'll make a bet with you. I'll make a bet with you right now that if you go and compare the views of Tim Pool's show, with any other guest around the same time period, I'll promise you he was bottom 3. Promise you.
Shit.
Bottom 3 views. If I'm wrong, I will do something crazy.
You gotta shave the stash if you're wrong, dude. That's how it works.
There you go. Bottom 3 of like that 7 days of Tim Pool shows.
We'll have to look into it. That'd be pretty crazy to actually look into and see if you're right, man.
Well, I mean, I know you like him and I know you want to be his friend and everything, but like,
I'm already his friend.
Have you honestly had someone tell you they're a Scott Horton libertarian?
Yeah, especially in the Mises caucus for sure. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I would believe that in the Mises caucus. I would believe that.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that were brought to especially, I don't know, there's a lot of people who may not have been all the way libertarians, but were already liberty leaning that came and joined the party and the caucus because of Scott, for sure. For sure.
How many? Sure. If you had to guess.
Oh, I don't know. At this point, I don't know. I used to be a lot more.
12.
No, a lot more than that, man. A lot more than I used to be really heavily involved with the caucus, and it's funny because when I started with the caucus, it was 50 people in a Facebook group. Now we own 26 state boards around the country, so it's a huge thing. I mean, it's totally got rid of the pragmatist caucus.
Right. Anything that Scott Horton has written, you could read by Matt Taibbi, and it'll be way more interesting, even if it does have a leftist slant, and it'll probably get more people to be anti-war.
Well, I think Scott sometimes has a leftist slant when it comes to the anti-war stance too, which is, fine with me. And he talks to a lot of leftists when he does his show and stuff too. He actually probably talks to more leftists. You
kind of have to. Well, yeah. I mean, when you're so anti-war that like you're like anti-defense, like, that's like left-wing territory to a large degree. Because, like when you start moving right of center, you start believing in self-defense, right? So, and again, once you start defending yourself, third parties start to come into question, and it's a shame that libertarians have such a disconnect between like the concept of don't tread on me and how that should apply to international affairs, right? Don't tread on me is more than just a flag, right? You don't say. Yeah, it's a way of life. So.
Absolutely. Well, man, we're about at the end of this here segment. Make sure you guys go and check out Austin's. So I've actually watched your morning show quite a few times, and I watched the other day with your brother singing on there, and then saw your brother on Twitter, and I followed him, and he followed me back. So your brother follows me on Twitter now, which is kind of cool.
Nice, yeah. He's, like I said, he's been red-pilled over the last year, and he's like me. He's from the art, he's got the artistic background and stuff, and he was always kind of left liberal for his whole life, but like all this CRT woke stuff has just woken him up, because he's like, he's pretty openly a gay guy, and he's being told by transgender activists that if he doesn't like women that were born women, then he's a bigot, right? Because leftist trans activists are saying, date the trans or you're a bigot, right? Because he had to fight his whole
the lady weir.
Right. He had to fight his whole life for his sexual identity. Sure. He had to fight for his whole life to come out of the closet and to say, I'm attracted to men. I want to date men. To only now have the LGBTQIA plus movement say to him, oh no, now you have to also be attracted to people who are born as women. If they identify as men, if you don't find them attractive, then you're a bigot. And so my brother is like, I'm out of here. You know what I mean? So
he's
a fascinating guy. And if you're into music and the arts, and he's got a bigger brain than I do, check out my brother Justin too.
Yeah, he's pretty cool. I'm happy to be following him on Twitter and stuff, man. I stayed at your dad's land when I was there for your Senate campaign. I think I stayed in your old bedroom, man. Probably.
Yeah, you might have.
That's pretty cool.
Let's not talk about all the things that happened in there.
Yeah, I'm sure. No, your dad's a cool guy, man. He made bratwursts, and he's really nice. We sat around and watched TV.
Yeah,
and stuff.
He's a great guy.
Yeah, really cool, man. I appreciate the hospitality. But Austin, thank you so much for coming on Break the Cycle, brother. I appreciate you. I will check you later.
Have a great night, Josh. Thank you.